What does Pym mean by calling translation theory a field of struggle?
Pym means that translation theory is not a neutral search for objective truth, but an arena where conflicting interests, narratives, Western and otherwise, and purposes constantly challenge each other.
Why does Pym say no natural theory is completely neutral?
He argues that all theories are particular approaches arising from specific interests and historical contexts, therefore, they are inherently non-neutral and reflect particular ways of seeing the world.
How does Pym define a translation theory?
Pym defines a translation theory as the set of assumptions and concepts that translators bring into play whenever they decide on a course of action or justify their practical choices.
What is meant by the plurality of theories in the author's view?
It means that translation studies is characterized by many alternative narratives or approaches rather than a single dominant model, with each defending a different aspect or purpose of translation.
What does Pym mean by natural equivalence?
Natural equivalence assumes that linguistic units in different languages can have the same value, equivalue, regardless of context, and these equivalents are symmetrical and discovered rather than created by the translator.
What is the difference between natural equivalence and directional equivalence?
Natural equivalence is symmetric and context-free, meaning A equals B implies B equals A, while directional equivalence is asymmetric and depends on the context, purpose, and function of a specific translation act.
Why does Pym call natural equivalence a sub-paradigm?
He calls it a sub-paradigm because its applicability is historically and culturally limited, for example to the print culture of standard vernacular languages, and it lacks the full explanatory power of a complete paradigm.
According to Pym, what does moving away from equivalence change about the way translators think?
It shifts translators' focus from word-based comparisons to text-based analysis, emphasizing understanding, function, and purpose rather than literal linguistic correspondences.
How does Pym explain the influence of structuralism on the concept of equivalence in translation theory?
Structuralism influenced equivalence by showing that meaning is relative within a language system, highlighting the difficulty of achieving true cross-linguistic equivalence and leading to a crisis in the concept.
According to Pym, why do debates about equivalence keep returning in translation studies?
Debates keep returning because translators and readers desire certainty and hold a belief in the possibility of complete meaning transfer and equal value, which defines the social function of translation.